Posterior cranial fossa. It is the largest and deepest of all cranial fossae, and it lodges cerebellum, that is our little brain, and the lower part of brainstem, pons and medulla. Let's see the boundaries of posterior cranial fossa. Anteriorly, it is bounded in the midline by a projection of sphenoid called as dorsum cellae. And dorsum cellae has tiny projections on each side called as posterior clinoid process. Superior border of petrous part of temporal forms a margin on each side separating the middle from the posterior cranial fossa. Posteriorly, the posterior cranial fossa is limited by squamous part of occipital bone, that is the thin plate of occipital bone. Laterally, we can see the mastoid process of temporal bone and mastoid angle of parietal bone, where the parietal articulates with the mastoid part of temporal bone. And floor, it is quite deep and it is formed by each side squamous part of occipital bone, where it is called as cerebellar fossa and lodges each lobe of cerebellum in each fossa. In the middle, we can see basisphenoid or basioccipit, which forms the midline of the floor, and posterior surface of petrous temporal bone on each side anteriorly, and laterally the mastoid part of temporal bone. So these are the structures forming the floor of posterior cranial fossa. Continuing with the features. The midline basisphenoid or basioccipit makes a sloping surface which is present in front of foramen magnum, and this sloping surface is called as clivus. So clivus is the fusion of superior surface of sphenoid and basioccipit. This clivus supports brainstem, that is the lower part of brainstem, pons and medulla, and it is also related to basilar plexus of veins and basilar artery, which is located in basilar groove of ventral surface of pons. Lower part of clivus, which forms the anterior margin of foramen magnum, gives attachment to membrana tectoria, superior longitudinal band of cruciform ligament and apical ligament of Dens, which is a ligament from Dens or odontoid process of second cervical vertebra. And the junction between the clivus and laterally with the petrous temporal, this junction is petrooccipital fissure. This fissure is grooved by inferior petrosal sinus, which is a dural venous sinus, and it is the first tributary of internal jugular vein, where it passes through jugular foramen to come back into the cranial cavity, forming inferior petrosal sinus. Posterior lateral end of this fissure, that is posterior lateral end of petrooccipital fissure, this fissure widens to form a gap, which is a jugular foramen. So jugular foramen is divided into three parts for our easy learning. The three parts are anterior or the medial end, posterior or the lateral end, and the middle part. Anterior part transmits inferior petrosal sinus. We just now heard of inferior petrosal sinus, which runs along the inferior border of petrous part of temporal bone in petrooccipital fissure. So the same inferior petrosal sinus and meningeal branch of ascending pharyngeal artery. So these are the structures passing through the anterior part. Posterior part is also a vascular compartment which transmits sigmoid sinus, which continues as internal jugular vein below the foramen in norma basalis. The middle part is the nervous compartment where we have 3 cranial nerves. This is the only foramen which transmits 3 cranial nerves, that is 9th, 10th, 11th cranial nerves. 9th is glossopharyngeal, 10th is vagus and 11th is spinal accessory. So this is about jugular foramen. So moving on to the large foramen which we see in posterior part is foramen magnum. Foramen magnum, for our better understanding, we can divide this foramen into 2 parts, anterior ligamentous compartment which is a narrow like and posterior broader neurovascular compartment. Ligamentous compartment transmits ligaments and neurovascular compartment is for nervous tissue and blood vessels. This is just to remember the structures passing through. So beginning with the ligamentous compartment, it transmits apical ligament of dens, superior longitudinal band of cruciform ligament and membrana tectoria which attaches along the margins of foramen magnum. So these 3 structures we already saw attaching to the lower part of the clivus, passing through the anterior part of foramen magnum. Continuing with the posterior, that is the neurovascular compartment, it transmits the lower part of medulla oblongata which is a chief component of foramen magnum, and lower part of medulla oblongata continues below the foramen magnum as spinal cord. And this medulla is surrounded by meninges. So the 3 meninges, dura mater, arachnoid mater and pia mater runs along the medulla. And the spinal roots of 11th cranial nerve, that is the spinal part of 11th accessory nerve, runs upwards into the foramen magnum to join with the cranial part and comes out through the jugular foramen as 11th cranial nerve or accessory nerve. So this is also an important structure. And next is the meningeal branch of upper cervical. So the upper cervical nerve gives meningeal branches, sensory nerves to supply the meninges in the posterior cranial fossa. Vertebral arteries, and always large arteries are with sympathetic plexus. So vertebral arteries along with its sympathetic plexus, and spinal arteries, anterior and posterior spinal arteries which are given off in the posterior cranial fossa and they run down through the foramen magnum to supply the spinal cord. So these are the list of structures passing through foramen magnum. Let's see the margins of foramen magnum. Foramen magnum, we know it is oval like, having an anterior margin, posterior margin and 2 lateral margins on either side. Starting with the anterior margin which gives attachment to anterior atlanto-occipital membrane, posterior margin provides attachment to posterior atlanto-occipital membrane and lateral margins gives attachment to alar ligaments. Let's talk about other features of posterior cranial fossa. If we see on the posterior surface, we can see a nice prominence here which is called as internal occipital protuberance. It is situated opposite to external occipital protuberance. We all saw the external occipital protuberance in norma occipitalis. In line with this external occipital protuberance, the projection on inside is internal occipital protuberance. This point is important because it is related to joining of most of the dural venous sinuses which are present around the brain. So this point is otherwise called as confluence of dural venous sinuses. On each side of internal occipital protuberance, we can see a shallow sulcus called as transverse sulcus. So this right and left transverse sulcus lodges a dural venous sinus known as transverse sinus. Transverse sinus continues laterally and anteriorly to form sigmoid sinus. We all know sigmoid sinus further continues into internal jugular vein which exits jugular foramen. So the lips of this transverse sulcus gives attachment to tentorium cerebelli. And below the internal occipital protuberance, along the inner aspect of the occipital bone, there is a midline crust known as internal occipital crust. And this crust continues till the margins of foramen magnum. So this is called as internal occipital crust, which is attached to falx cerebelli. That is a fold of dura mater which separates two cerebellar hemispheres. And lower tip of the internal occipital crust, we can see it splits, forming a triangular fossa. This small triangular fossa, which is adjacent to the posterior part of foramen magnum, is Vermian fossa. Vermian fossa is related to inferior vermis of cerebellum. So vermis is a connection between the two cerebellar hemispheres. So the lower part of the vermis is related to Vermian fossa. And on each side of internal occipital crust, there are shallow depressions called as cerebellar fossa, which lodges right and left cerebellar hemispheres. Next, about the sigmoid sulcus. Sigmoid in anatomy, it means S-like, letter S. So it is the downward continuation of transverse sulcus at mastoid angle of parietal bone. It continues at the lateral end of jugular foramen and lodges sigmoid sinus and continue below the foramen of internal jugular vein. And next important foramen is the hypoglossal canal. So we shall talk about hypoglossal. Hypoglossal is the nerve, that is the 12th cranial nerve. So hypoglossal canal, it is named because it transmits 12th cranial nerve. So we will identify where is this foramen. It is located in the posterior cranial fossa along the margins of foramen magnum. So if you see along the margins of foramen magnum, which opens anteriorly, is hypoglossal canal, and it transmits, we all know, hypoglossal nerve and also meningeal branch of ascending pharyngeal artery and an emissary vein. There is one more canal called as posterior condylar canal. So if we are saying posterior condylar, there should be anterior condylar too. So hypoglossal canal is otherwise called as anterior condylar canal because it is present anterior to the occipital condyles in Norma basalis. Posterior condylar canal is not constant. It is not seen in all skulls. It is an inconstant foramen, and if at all it is present, it transmits emissary vein from sigmoid sinus. And one more feature is along the posterior surface of the petrous part of temporal bone, approximately 1 centimeter in length, there is a canal that is called as internal acoustic meatus, which is present in the center of the posterior part of petrous temporal. So this opening is internal acoustic meatus, which is approximately 1 centimeter in length, and this meatus transmits 7th, 8th cranial nerves and labyrinthine artery. So internal acoustic means auditory or hearing. So it is connected to the internal ear. So 7th is the facial nerve, 8th is the vestibulocochlear nerve. Both the nerves enter through the internal acoustic meatus to reach internal ear. And along with these nerves, labyrinthine artery supplies the internal ear, which also traverses through this foramen. So these are the structures passing through internal acoustic meatus. So these are the important features of posterior cranial fossa along with the foramens, structures passing through and some important features and attachments.